Welcome everyone to another week of our Fireside Chat, and this week our focus is on our Cumentum accreditation. I'll start by saying I'm turning the tables on Julie a little bit this week. You all may recognize her as the one who usually facilitates our wonderful Fireside Chats, but I thought this week I'm going to put her in the hot seat and get her to answer some of the questions. So welcome to the other side of the table, Julie.
Thank you.
Also with us today is Sydney Oakes, who is a member of our board of directors, and she is also, a key member of our accreditation team. We have Chris Quigley with us. She is our accreditation lead. And finally, my pleasure to loop in Kim Hetherington, who is the executive director of the Comox MFRC. But about 6 years ago, or maybe it's longer, Kim was the executive director of the Petawawa MFRC, which is essentially when the conversation started on getting the PMFRC accredited. Typically at this point, Julie asks me to let everybody know where we are with our resumption plan update. Right now, there is no new changes to the way we're doing business. We can announce that for our Christmas hours, we're going to close at noon on the 24th and reopen on Monday, the 4th of January. Employment services will have different hours, and there will be access to services during that period. And the information on that will be coming out soon. So stay tuned. And once all the information and contact stuff has been confirmed, you can head over to the ES website or, of course, CAF Connection to get all the details. We're also continuing to work on a plan for Kitty College to hopefully open later in January, and then shortly thereafter follow up with hopefully the Northside Casual Care. Finally, I just want to encourage everyone to stay tuned to our December calendar, as there are several pretty cool activities coming up for the Christmas countdown. So check out the schedule for more updates on that. All right, let's move right into the discussion on accreditation. So much fun. Not many people know what being accredited means, but it's the high point really that acts like an additional level of standards and protocols above and beyond what we are already held accountable for. It's our priority to ensure that our staff and clients and families we serve, that their well-being, health, and safety are factored into everything we do. And Accreditation Canada, who we have our accreditation through, assesses us on national standards to ensure that we operate in a transparent manner and that we're accountable to all of those people that we serve. So Kim, very happy that you were able to join us today. And as I mentioned, you were the executive director when the discussion started about accreditation. Can you put some context around why the PMFRC decided to go this route and become accredited?
Thank you for having me, Claudia. I did have to search back in my memory a little bit. And I was trying to remember how long ago it was. So I wasn't sure if it was 6 hours. Honestly, at the time, we were contracting out services, and the board and myself had made the decision to build our own mental health team, just for the purpose of, just to be responsive to the growing needs to support our families. Chris and I, actually, we were together at that time, and we honestly just embarking on this new adventure, and we really didn't understand what was involved in terms of being able to offer a quality mental health service to our families that had the highest standards of practices and protocols and things. So it was definitely a learning opportunity for us. And we're setting up the team. I actually received an invitation from a community organization to attend an accreditation meeting. So they were going through and to be honest, I didn't know very much about it. So I attended this meeting, and for me, it was just like, this is what we need to explore if we want to be able to offer a quality service to our families. We need to be accredited, and that started the conversation that I had with the board. I connected a representative from Accreditation Canada, and we just started the ball rolling, and I knew this is the journey that we just needed to embrace.
Awesome, thanks. And I think I know that originally the process started to accreditate the mental health team, but we have really extended it to all aspects of the program. So our programs, our services, the board, governance, leadership, and we'll talk a little bit more about that with Sydney. Sydney, thanks for joining us again. This is the second time you have come to talk to us with us about accreditation. So from your perspective, what does being accredited mean from a governance, leadership, safety, and community programming perspective?
Thanks for having me back on, Claudia. The importance of accreditation through a governance perspective is very important. The idea of accreditation being to improve outcomes through independent evaluations that are assessed against globalized standards. So what that means is that the process itself actually creates these constant mechanisms to ensure high standards are constantly being met. Additionally, these standards are constantly evolving, which means that the PMFRC is constantly improving, and these improvements can be measured in a very transparent way. So throughout all aspects, like you mentioned, governance, leadership, safety, and programming, these mechanisms are really what sets the PMFRC apart as a national leader. Additionally, this nationally recognized leadership translates into safety assurances and top-level standards, which are implemented into every single community program, just like you were talking about, which benefits the families who are serviced by these programs. So in short, it's really the constant and consistent mechanisms to ensure the high quality standards and improvements are constantly being met that benefits families, as Kim said was the original intent of engaging PMFRC within this process.
Awesome, thanks. Chris, as the accreditation lead and someone that is very diligent in keeping the committee together and making sure we're on track, she is the main point of contact with our Accreditation Canada representative. You've been engaged with this process now since the very beginning, and even a part of that conversation, like Kim said, when you guys were both working here together. So can you share some of what the PMFRC has done as we prepared for accreditation?
Thanks, Claudia. We've certainly done a lot of hard work, and if you kind of equate it to starting off in school, we originally went through a primer status with Accreditation Canada to get a sense from the community, to get a sense from our community partners, and to get a sense from our staff what aspects we already had in place for the quality of service and where we would need to go to improve to get to our second round, which we are looking forward to now in September, of our second 4-year cycle of Cumentum.
Okay, Sydney, back to you. Just a quick question on why it's important to be transparent about all of our processes.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. Well, from a governance perspective, transparency is absolutely key. With the board of directors, we actually recently held our annual General Assembly and presented the PMFRC strategic plan. I think it's important to note about this as well, that it was not a top-down approach, but it really incorporated the views and the goals of the PMFRC staff as well. And in these strategic priorities, innovation, communications and engagement, and a community-centered approach were solidified as the main priorities, and our guiding values being integrity, inclusion, safety, and outreach. So therefore, in order to practice what we preach, transparency for how the programs that family use are evaluated and assessed is absolutely paramount. It provides assurances that there is integrity, inclusion, safety, and outreach encompassed within these evaluations, which again serves the families with a peace of mind that there's a constant quality improvement and standardization across programs, and this information is absolutely accessible to them.
Awesome. It's amazing how far we've come from when we started the primer status to right up until the strategic priorities were presented at our AGM a couple of weeks ago. So it's been a lot of work. And Chris, I'll ask you, Accreditation Canada has some tailored standard sets that that's their language that help us improve our programs and services. Can you highlight what this means?
Sure. So their standard practices, or required organizational practices as they call them, fit into our standard of excellence, of which Sydney was just sharing quite a bit about. So the governance which is obviously our board and that direction. Leadership would be MFRC's management. Our community programming, so all of the programming through volunteering, through our community integration pieces, mental health, all of those areas of the MFRC fit into that community standard of excellence. And then of course, health and safety. So making sure that those who are using our services are all known to be included in being safe, and making sure that all the standards are set so that if a situation is a riskier situation, that we've taken all of the steps to ensure the health and safety of those involved, including the staff, not just for our customers and clients. And so what we do is we go through each of those standards of excellence, those 4 areas, and we look at the required operational practices, and we identify where we are, I guess if you want to look at it from the perspective of green, yellow, red, that sort of thing, where we're at in each of those levels. We look at it from doing surveys and then following up with those surveys from our staff and our board in terms of where we need to improve. And then when we have our improvements made and our excellence ready to shine and be shown, then the surveyors come in and spend 2 days with us and go through all of those processes, ensuring that we are meeting the standards of these required practices. And if we're not, it's not that we're looked upon as failing, it's what can we do to improve that so that we can move forward and still be transparent in our safety in all of those pieces, and offering, as Kim said, the best quality programs. I'm going to be a little biased because mental health is where I sit, but ensuring that if we are offering the standards, our clients can be guaranteed that they will get a good quality service. The piece with Accreditation Canada is we already have to work and practice by the rules that are governance through our military family services. But now we take it one step further, and we are following also the standard practices and the required organizational pieces for excellence through Accreditation Canada. So if we can meet those pieces, we are the program to come to.
And it's a good point, Chris, when you talk about the accreditation team coming down to do a review of everything to make sure that we're in alignment with those standards. They don't just rely on conversations with the staff and the board. They talk to our stakeholders, and they also ask to talk to community members. So there is feedback from all levels of the organization for the same perspective that all levels of the organization are familiar with these standards and the processes that are in place. And so we carry that out through the community and hope that the community recognizes that we place a very high priority on having really professional, skilled, qualified staff to facilitate those programs, but also make sure that they're safe for the families to use as well. So talking about programs, Miss Julie, we haven't forgotten about you. From the programming perspective, what are some of the changes that have been implemented to ensure that we're providing a safe work environment for the team?
I think one of the things that we've given us is it's a consistent framework. Accreditation has allowed us to look at programming a little differently, and right from the planning stage to start looking at what are we trying to accomplish and how are we going to prove that we actually got there. It's a lot easier to plan your route when you know where you're heading and going from there. So we take a look at what we want to accomplish, what we want to do, and then how do we know that we got there? What are the measures that are going to be meaningful to us? I mean, I think it's really easy to look at a program and say, you know, we filled every single seat, but looking at measures like of the people who were there, how many of them really benefited from the program? How many people there did we make a meaningful contact with? Did we present information that people could actually use and that they could implement to make their lives a little bit better? And that's, at the end of the day, what we want to do is support our military families and help them to make their lives a little bit better. It comes down to feedback at a lot of the time. I think back to a year ago when we were planning for deployment and looking at deployment programs. At that time, we never could have imagined COVID was hitting. So we had to go to our families and ask them, what are the barriers that you're experiencing? We don't know. This is a brand new situation. We consider it a success when we can go to a family, hear about a barrier, and then implement a program that addresses that directly, because we know we're making an impact in the community. Just going back to the point that you made about safety, just talking about the whole COVID thing. I mean, a lot of the programs that my team was doing was in person. We would go to a building and people would come in, kids, and we would talk and everybody would touch the same things and paper would go from person to person. And it seems crazy now, but that's the way we used to do it. And being able to turn that around in a couple of months, because we had the structure, because we had the framework, we were able to do that in a much easier way. We knew how to sort of look for the objectives. And we knew how to fine tune things. We oftentimes, when you're doing programming, you jump from one thing to the next really quickly, and you don't take the time to come back and say, how did we do? Like, did it actually work? And how can we fine tune this to make this a little bit easier? And the community's been so excellent about giving us that feedback with the virtual program. We're doing it differently than when we started, but we're doing it differently because we want to make it meaningful and accessible to families.
Yeah, and I think one of the pieces to that is the information that we get from that feedback, and the feedback is shared. Again, the feedback comes in from the program, from the programmers, from the coordinators, comes to me directly, but we collect it all and it gets shared, and we actually track how many new programs that have actually, you know, been initiated because of the feedback that has come from a family member. And Sydney, I'm just going to put you on the spot because we didn't really talk about this, but a lot of that information and that feedback, it goes right back up to the board, right? Like, this isn't just something that stays within the operational day-to-day. Can you talk a little bit about the information that the board sees from the governance level?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely standardization within the reports that are provided, and it does come from the feedback within the programs, people's comments, those types of things. So we're constantly on a regular schedule getting this information and then providing our feedback back through that loop. So when we talked about the implementation of these accreditation standards, going from community, staff, stakeholders, up to governance, leadership, all these different types, all these different levels, and checks and balances for, you know, to make sure that these standards are being met. We receive all of that, we provide our feedback to it, and then that's implemented back into the loop as well. And Accreditation Canada also sees all of those processes. So it's a really organic and wholesome sort of evaluation. But again, when I was talking about the independent evaluation, so it's not just the feedback loop is given off of comments that we pick and choose that we want to discuss, or different evaluations that we're providing the types of standards for. These are globalized standards. The comments are assessed against those globalized standards. So it really makes the mechanism for the board from a governance perspective of checking back into these really consistent and really transparent.
That's awesome. And I just want to echo what Julie said. You know, when COVID first hit and we were all a little bit scrambling, trying to figure out how can we do this from home? How can we still support our families? Because, you know, people were still deploying and people were still doing their things. And some people are essential service workers and they had to go back to work. And you know, there was a baseline for how we were doing things. We learned a lot of lessons. We got a lot of feedback from community members. The fireside chats have been amazing in giving us some of that feedback. It's really been amazing, and a huge shout out to the staff for being as adaptable, creative, and flexible as they have been. But Julie, from a staff perspective, why is accreditation as important for the staff as it is for the clients?
We've been talking a lot about safety and risk, but I think that with accreditation, we've actually gone a step beyond that. And we're looking at creating a healthy workplace, and we're looking at a workplace where people, where there's wellness. The feedback loops and being able to come and make comments and express concerns at the client level, that exists at the employee level as well. So people are being encouraged to come back if they have concerns, to let people know, and how can we change the processes so that employees feel heard and that they understand how these decisions are made. Inclusion has become a really big focus. We've done a lot of training over the last year. And I think a lot of us have learned to look at things at different lenses and look at things from viewpoints that we hadn't considered before. And we've changed some of our processes. We've adapted some of our language. And I think when staff can feel included and they feel that respect, that gets passed on to families. If you can create a culture for your staff that's something that passes on to your families. And I think families benefit from that. And the other thing we talked about, going back and looping back and reevaluating their programs. We often were sort of jumping from one thing to the other, and we never stopped and took a look at, you know what, you did that really well. And having an opportunity for us to look at the numbers and say, you know, I made a difference in this family's life, and just being able to stop and say, sometimes when you're in that cycle and, you know, we're changing things over and you have these challenges, sometimes you don't sort of sit down and look at some of your accomplishments. And I think that makes a really big difference in keeping that healthy workplace. And I think lastly, it's just employee recognition. One of the things that we've looked at is starting meetings with an opportunity for staff to point out some of the things that their coworkers are doing that they want people to recognize, or even sometimes it's a simple thank you, because oftentimes somebody will call you and they'll ask for a favor and it doesn't seem like a lot to you, but when you actually realize afterwards how much it made a difference in your coworker's ability to do something, I think it really reinforces the fact that we are a team, and accreditation sort of forced us to put those processes in, but I think we've benefited from it. I think we've really built on it.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying, where we didn't take the time to actually do that follow-up piece. And that really was, and Chris can attest to this, one of the biggest takeaways that we got after our primary review. We were always so focused on the next event or activity that we didn't go back to assess how well it went, or you know, even now we're soliciting feedback from the people that attended those activities, even the special events, and what did they have to say? What did they like? What didn't they like? So we've learned a lot over the 6 years I've started this when I came in 2014, and we've grown a long way. The staff recognition piece is essential. It's very important to me. The team has worked really hard. We did talk about, and actually Chris brought it forward, the frog piece, which is forever recognizing our greatness. And that has really skyrocketed throughout the team now, where people are just throwing out these frogs and appreciation for what they're doing, because appreciation and recognition comes from all levels, whether it's the community, whether it's the board, the management team, or from their coworker. It's whatever's meaningful to them. So yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of stuff, but very good stuff, and something that we're all very proud of. Kim, final question for you. It's been 6 years, and I think almost 7 really, because I came in March of 2014. What do you think? Something that started on your watch, has some of this realized? Do you think we've met some of the goals that were initially established way back then? What are your thoughts?
I think you overachieved. I am just amazed. Something that just started as something so small has just grown into something so huge. And honestly, my goal, like I had a few goals, operational effectiveness, obviously, and also just respond to what our family's needs were at the time. And that was huge. We were hearing a lot of feedback from our families at the time that you know, we needed to do something a little bit different. And that's how the journey started, is you know, opening, you know, creating this mental health team. And I just sure that we were gonna open up something that was probably one of the best in the country across the MFRCs, and I think you've achieved that. And I was just very happy part of it. Glad I didn't have to do all the work.
You're welcome.
No, I'm sitting here going, oh, I wonder if I should start that here in Comox.
We have some information to share with you if you like.
I'm very proud of the team. Petawawa is a place that's dear to me. We were posted there twice. Our children grew up there, went through several deployments as well, saw the struggles in our community, the mental with the spouses and with our children. So to actually see this happen is just amazing. It just makes me very proud to have been part of this team.
You were a big part. You're definitely the catalyst that set the ball rolling. And you know, I tease you a lot about what I kind of walked into when I got here, but it's been very rewarding. It has definitely been a huge learning curve, but something that, again, I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of all of us for how far we've gotten. I'm proud of the board for supporting me in some of the crazy documents and paperwork that has hit them, saying we really, really need this, and just being there when we needed them. So greatly appreciated. And yeah, does anybody have any final thoughts that they want to share? Sydney?
I do, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I didn't say it this time. I think it's important to, I actually said it on the last fireside chat, is the process itself. The way that we're describing it right now seems pretty flawless and easy because of the way that it's being described in 6 years in. But I think it's really important for people to know that it's actually really difficult. It adds an extra layer to almost everybody's job to make sure that they're collecting that data into the scorecards, that feedback, making sure that every single piece of paperwork that you have has the ability to be audited really at any point. It goes without saying that the staff has done an incredible job of making sure that our job as the board definitely is easier by making sure that this is all in place, but not every organization even attempts to become accredited because it is such a difficult process. And I think that goes without saying that the PMFRC really is exemplary, because not only do they do it and achieve it, but they actually integrate all of those processes, not just for auditing purpose, but to make sure that the quality of service is there for families. And I just think that's really, really, really important to note.
Thank you. Julie, any final comments?
I think my final comment is sort of echoing what Sydney said. There are a couple of extra layers, but I think once you get into the process of it, the benefits that we've got from that information, being able to access that information, has really made a difference in what we're able to do for families.
Thank you. Chris?
Sure. I am going to give a frog to Kim and Sydney for coming along on this ride, for Kim to enlighten us on the history, and take the blame for where we are now, and for Sydney for being a big part of not only the board, but she's also on our accreditation team. So that'll be a big piece of work for her as well, with her day job and her other hats that she wears as well. So forever recognize your greatness, girls. Thank you.
Awesome. Kim, anything else you'd like to add?
I am just amazed. Never thought the journey would be this long, but just a huge congratulations. That's quite an achievement. The vision was to offer the best service we could to our families, and I think the entire MFRC board, the staff, like, you have gone above the call of duty as far as I'm concerned. So congratulations, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. It's great to see you again, all out in Comox, where it's beautiful and sunny.
Today it is, which is really nice.
It's snowing here.
Yeah,
I know. I don't miss that.
Put that in perspective. I'll finish by saying that if there are any questions out there about our accreditation, about our processes, or anything that any of our staff or clients or customers want to share with us, then please use those the feedback loops and the links which are on the website. Julie will make sure that they are up there for you. Julie, back to putting you on the spot, but can you tell us about what's coming up next in the fireside chats?
So no offense to any of the guests that we've had so far, because they've all been excellent, but I think I'm most excited about 2 weeks from now, December 16th, we are having a special guest coming from the North Pole. So if you have a letter that you are sending to the North Pole this year, there is going to be a special Gmail address that you can send it to. Send it to the North Pole care of the PMFRC. We are going to be reading those letters off and having a conversation with our special North Pole friends. So kids, if there's something that you want to say, send it in, and we will read that off and make sure that he gets the messages.
Awesome. A lot to look forward to. So thanks everybody for joining us, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Until the next fireside chat. Thank you.
Thank you.